Today we're going to be talking about Summoner Wars. It's a game by Plaid Hat Games, designed by Colby Dauk. It's a tactical combat game where you use decks of cards on a grid. All the different cards are your different units. Instead of just talking about one of the sets of the game, I'm going to be showing just the game as a whole. So this is the Master Set, which comes with 6 different factions in it. Then you have the starter sets that come with 2 factions in them each. And then you can get faction packs that are going to have a faction in each one. So let's take a look at what the game is. In Summoner Wars, each player is playing a summoner, trying to attack your opponent's summoner to take them out. The first player to defeat their opponent's summoner is the winner. So here we have the Tundra Orcs versus the Fire Elves. Each faction has its own specialties and powers. They're each kind of around a certain little theme. And let's take a look at an anatomy of a card. So here we have the Shaman. The attack is right here, the big 2. So whenever you roll a dice to attack, you hit on a 4, 5, or 6, 1 and 2 misses. So your chances of missing are slim, but you can still roll a 1 or 2 sometimes. So it has that element of luck in the game, which keeps everything on edge, so that way you don't always know exactly what's going to happen. Then here we have the summoning cost. So that's how many magic points you have to discard to be able to summon units. Then this here shows that he's a ranged character, so that means he can attack units that are 2 spaces away, as opposed to a close combat unit that can only attack in melee, and they have to be adjacent. So adjacent in this game is right above or below, or left or right of the unit. So diagonals don't count as adjacents for moving and for attacking. And then you have here the hit points of the character. So this guy takes 2 wounds to hurt him. And then each card has a special ability. This card says that when he attacks, when you attack with him, if you roll 1 or more miss on the die rolls, then all the dice are counted as misses. So he's good because he has 2 attack, but if he misses with either of his attack, he doesn't get the hits. So here we are. This is the second turn of the game. The Phoenix Elves have already taken out one of the fighters, and taken a shot on the Smasher here. During the first turn of the game, you don't get to draw any cards in your hand, and also you can only move 2 of your units, but normally you can move 3. So we'll see here what we get. We're going to draw our hand of 5 cards and see what we have. So here we've drawn a couple of common units. We have another Shaman and another Fighter. Since it's just the first turn of the game, we don't have any magic here to be able to build them. But if we had magic here from either A, destroying one of our opponent's units, or B, having discarded at the end of our turn to build more magic, then we would be able to summon someone. When you summon a character, you look at their summoning cost. So here the Fighter costs 1. If we were to summon him to the board, we would place him anywhere adjacent, so up or down, left or right, to the wall, and those are the only places that you can summon characters at, and then we would pay that summoning cost there, and then discard the card that was used for magic. But since we don't have any magic, we're not going to be able to do that. So we will go ahead and skip to the event phase. During the event phase, you can play either walls or event cards. This one here says if we have less characters on the board than our opponent, then we can go ahead and place 2 of our common units, summon them for free. So this is really cool because it lets you summon during the event phase. And then here we have a wall that will let us play a wall and give you more places to summon from. You can get better protection around, and walls also have hit points, so if your opponent attacks your wall enough, you won't be able to summon anymore. So it's good to be able to play extra walls down so that you won't get stuck not being able to summon. So we'll go ahead and place this wall here, so that way we now have 2 places to summon, and it keeps his archer from attacking our Smasher right there. Then we'll go ahead and play our reinforcement card as the event. And event cards, when they're used, they go straight to your discard pile, and then they do the ability. So we can go ahead and bring out a Fighter up here right next to his archer, and then we'll bring out another Shaman here next to his Guardian. So I use an event card, and I can bring out 2 guys for free. This here is a Champion. Champions cost a lot more, but they're going to do a lot more damage and have more hit points. So I just flooded the board with a lot of common units, which is not necessarily a good thing because it gives my opponent a lot of targets to hit. Whenever a unit is destroyed, they go to your magic pile, so it can help him build up a lot of magic. But we're just showing you the game. So then after that, we get to do our movement phase. So I'm going to go ahead and move you can move 3 units, and they each move 2 spaces. So I'll move the Smasher 2 spaces, so 1, 2. And then we'll go ahead and move this Shaman 1 space up to here. And then we'll move the Fighter 1 space up to here. So now we can make attacks. So you can make attacks with 3 different characters. So what we're going to do here is we're going to attack with the Fighter here on the Archer. So he has an attack value of 1, so we're going to roll 1 dice. So we'll hit as long as we don't roll a 1 or 2. So we rolled a 1, so we've missed for this attack. So next we're going to roll with the Shaman on the Guardian here. So it's going to be 2 attack versus him. And as long as both hit, then it would do the damage. But since we missed with one of them, it doesn't, because that's the Shaman's special ability. Then this Shaman is going to attack his wall. If you end up taking out all the hit points of the wall, it can really slow down their abilities. So both need to hit with the Shaman, and both miss. So hey, you probably want to play a game of Summoner Wars with me, because I always roll 1s and 2s. But a lot of times, the game will come back around, and one person will be rolling poorly, and then another person will be, then later in the game, you'll be getting those good hits. It leaves that element of chance in the game, which makes it a lot of fun, because you're always on edge, saying, oh man, I need to get those 5s and 6s so I can hit. And then you continue turns back and forth until you can take out your opponent's summoner. The last phase after the attack phase is the build magic phase. That's where we're going to be taking any cards in our hand that we don't want to play and building them into magic, so that way we can bring more guys up next. And that's one of the best parts of the game, is the fact that you have to figure out what you want to discard out of your hand, what you want to play out of your hand, so that way you can decide exactly how your deck is going to play, whether you're going to play with a lot of magic building and throwing those champions out there, or try to bring out a lot of common units and flood the board and take out their walls, different things like that. The decks in this game are very small, so the chances are you will go through the whole deck before you end the game. So that way you're choosing which cards you're going to play, which cards you're going to build as magic, which events are going to play, or would that event be better used to help me bring out my champions later in the game. So it's really cool being able to make those decisions on the fly as you're playing the game, trying to figure out what strategy is going to work best against which faction. And there's all sorts of different factions in the game. So we'll go ahead and show you all the factions that I have. There's a couple that I'm missing, but we'll look at those next. Here we have some of the expansions for the game. This is the Guild Dwarves and the Cave Goblins, which come in one of the starter sets. The Guild Dwarves are very good because they're good at destroying walls, good at bringing out heroes, and also good at buffing guys, giving them a little bit extra strength with the event cards to kind of surprise attack your opponent. The Cave Goblins are great for crowding walls, destroying walls, getting lots of units on the board, buffing them up with special events, making them do all sorts of crazy things. Then you have the Undead here with the Rectalis. They're very good at bringing the guys back out of your discard pile, so they're all about sacrificing your own dudes to summon your heroes out and then bring guys back from the discard pile that have already died. Then we have the Vanguards. They're very good at healing and defense. An awesome group to play if you're into taking the game slowly and trying to let your opponent run out. And then we have the Shadow Elves. They're good at assassinating, running across the board, playing some events that can just kill off some of your opponent's commons units. Then we have the Swamp Orcs. They're great at, they put a bunch of vines all over the board with different abilities to slow your opponent down. When they walk off of the vines, they end up taking damage and stuff like that. Then we have the Benders. The Benders are like a controlling group. They can shut down specific units when they're beside them. They can mind control your opponent's dudes. They remind me a lot of Blue in Magic, so it's pretty cool. And then we have the Mountain Vargath. The Mountain Vargath are like a very heavy hitter, melee combat, up-in-your-face sort of group. They have a lot of events that let you move around the board and reform your ranks and stuff like that, so they're a great one to play if you like sort of heavy hitters. Then we have the Deep Dwarves. Deep Dwarves do a lot of different things with magic cards, so they can boost up attack with magic cards, they can move people around with magic, so they're a race that does a lot of stuff with the magic pile. They can even bring people back from the dead out of your magic pile. Then we have the Sand Goblins. Sand Goblins have all sorts of different events that can make sandstorms and bring a bunch of dudes out, dudes that are harder to see because they have camouflage, that sort of thing. Very cool. Then we have the Demagogue. This is the Filth. They are all-around mutations, so they switch out your different common units. They put extra strong mutations on it. They're kind of like a utility group, so they can switch out what they need when they need it, and it's kind of cool to see all the different mutations and stuff in there. So they're very like filth, radioactive type thing. So if you're into that sort of theme, definitely check them out. And then we also have the Mercenaries. Mercenaries are guys that you can, when you're doing deck building in this game, you can put mercenaries in any of your decks, but this is a deck that's just for mercenaries, and normally you're only allowed to have a certain number of mercenaries. In the mercenary deck, you can have as many as you want. This deck specifically is all about you can turn certain ones of your common units into walls, and if you have those common units far across the board, you can summon guys, and you can destroy your own walls or destroy your opponent's walls to draw cards really fast. So we've got a lot of card draw and kind of tricky things with walls. So I'm missing a couple more of them. The Jungle Elves, which are all about movement and canceling events and that sort of thing. And then I'm also missing the Cloaks, which are kind of like sneaky backstabber type guys as well. They have a lot of cool movement things and then stealing stuff from your opponents. So definitely check out all the different decks in Summoner Wars, see what you like, and check it out. So I think Summoner Wars is a great game for 2 players, especially if you're players that like strategic choices and trying to figure out how to outsmart your opponent and move around the board. And also has that element of luck that allows the game to be interesting and exciting as you're playing. And the fact that there's so many factions and so many different varieties in the game makes it a ton of fun to play. The Master Set is definitely the best thing you can get to start the game. It comes with the hard board that is really nice for playing the game. The starter sets come with the paper board, which is good because it keeps the price down on the game, but it's a little bit hard to use just because you have creases and stuff in it, but it still works great. I suggest anybody who's interested in any sort of miniatures game or tactical game at all, or even people who like chess sort of stuff would find this very interesting. It's a very thinky game sometimes, so you're like, what's the best move to do? And it's a lot of fun trying out all the different factions and finding out what faction fits your personality best, and do you want to play more of a defensive deck, or do you want to play somebody who's going to run across the board and try to assassinate your opponent's summoner? It's a lot of fun, especially when your decks are both run out and you're trying to figure out exactly which way you need to go around this wall to be able to jump on your opponent before they get to attack you back. And it can lead for really tense moments, which make board games like this great. They also have an iOS app, which is a great way to try out the game before you buy it. The iOS app is free. It just comes with the Phoenix Elves set, which is pretty cool. And you can play against, I think, 3 or 4 different factions, but you can just play the Phoenix Elves. Then if you buy the game on iOS, then you can get the rest of the factions in there as a add-on to that game. It's a lot of fun playing that way, and it's definitely very good at honing your skills in the game, but as playing the iOS game, I start to miss like the social interaction with my actual opponent, because one of the parts that's fun about the game is when you get that perfect die roll and they're like, oh man, or when you know you have them and then you roll misses, and it's just the interaction in between an opponent is the part about board games that I love. But definitely check out the board game and the iOS app, and check out all the faction packs and different options you have. It's definitely a ton of fun. I suggest you check out Summoner Wars.